Today, we're diving into the story of one of the most influential people in all of human history. But here's the thing, this isn't a story about some king who inherited a throne or a general who conquered with an army. No, this is the story of a man who started his life as an orphan with basically nothing, who was armed only with truth, and who ended up completely changing the world.
And that's really the heart of it all, isn't it? This quote says it all. His power, his influence, it didn't come from swords or force. It came from his character, his incredible mercy, and his patience. And honestly, this one idea, it's the key to understanding how his message still resonates with billions of people more than 1,400 years later.
So here's the journey we're going to take. We'll walk through 5 key chapters of his life. We'll start with his early years where his character was forged. Then we'll get to the moment his mission began and the brutal pushback he faced. After that, the critical journey that built a new community. Then his incredible return and act of forgiveness. And finally, we'll look at the legacy of light he left for the world.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the man, you have to understand the world he was born into. It was a time often described as being in total darkness, a place where injustice was just normal. And his life began right in the middle of all that, with a profound sense of loss from day one.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around this. His father passes away before he's even born. He's an orphan from birth. Then, at just 6 years old, his mother is gone too. 2 years after that, his grandfather, who had taken him in, also dies. He's passed from one guardian to another, carrying a sadness that no child should ever have to bear. And yet, he did it with this quiet dignity, never once complaining.
And out of all that hardship, he built a reputation that became his greatest superpower. You see, long before any talk of him being a prophet, everyone in his city of Mecca, and I mean everyone, his friends and even his future enemies, they all called him Al-Amin, the Trustworthy One. If you needed someone reliable, someone honest, someone with integrity, he was the man you went to. His character was just unshakable.
So this incredible foundation of character, it was all building towards something huge. His deep thinking about the state of the world was about to be answered by a divine call that would literally change the course of human history forever.
You know, he was really bothered by the society he saw, all the injustice, the cruelty, the way people worshipped idols. So he would often retreat for days at a time to a cave on a mountain, just to think, to meditate, and to wrestle with this one fundamental question: where is the truth? And then one night, at 40 years old, in that very same cave, the answer came. The angel Gabriel appeared to him with this powerful command. He was, understandably, terrified. He replied, "I can't read." But the angel repeated the command, and with it came the very first verses of the Quran. The weight of that moment? Well, his life was never, ever the same.
He ran home completely shaken to his wife Khadija, and she didn't doubt him for a single second. Instead, she just wrapped him in comfort and immediately affirmed who he was. She reminded him of all the good he did, his kindness, his honesty. Her words, right here on the screen, became his anchor in that storm. And in that moment, she became the very first person to believe in his mission. But when he started sharing his message publicly, the very same society that had called him the Trustworthy One turned on him, viciously. His message of worshiping one God and demanding social justice, it threatened their entire power structure. So they mocked him, called him a magician, a liar. They tried to bribe him with wealth and power. And when that didn't work, they unleashed horrific torture on his followers, ending in a crushing 3-year boycott that left his small community on the brink of starvation.
So after more than a decade of this relentless persecution and deep personal loss, it really seemed like all hope was gone. But it's often in the darkest moments that a new dawn breaks. And this period led to a dangerous but absolutely pivotal journey.
Right as the boycott ended, as if things weren't bad enough, he was hit with 2 losses that were just devastating. It became known as the Year of Sorrow. First, his uncle Abu Talib, who had protected him from the worst of the abuse, passed away. Then, just days later, his wife Khadija, his rock, his #1 supporter, she was gone too. In a matter of weeks, he had lost his physical and emotional protection. He was completely vulnerable.
But then an invitation came from the people of a city called Yathrib. And look at this contrast here. It's just night and day. Everything he faced in Mecca, the persecution, the starvation, the rejection, was replaced in this new city, which would become known as Medina, with a warm welcome, a community built on brotherhood, and total freedom to live and share his faith.
This journey has a name, the Hijra, and it's so much more than just moving. This was the birth of a new kind of society, A community founded not on blood ties or wealth, but on a shared faith and a commitment to justice. It's such a monumental event that it marks the very beginning of the Islamic calendar.
All right, so now we get to the culmination of his entire life's mission. After years of building this thriving community in Medina, the story comes full circle. He's going to return to Makkah, the very city that threw him out, but this time, he's not coming back as a victim.
Now, the years in Medina weren't easy. They had to defend themselves, from an impossible, miraculous victory at Badr to a painful lesson in discipline at Uhud to a brilliant strategic defense that saved the city at the Battle of the Trench. Each trial made them stronger. But funnily enough, it was actually a peace treaty, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, that led to the biggest explosion in their numbers.
So when his opponents back in Mecca broke that peace treaty, he marched back to the city. But look at this number. He didn't come back with a few hundred followers. No, he returned with an army of 10,000. The entire power dynamic had been flipped on its head.
And this is the climax of the entire story. He stood before the leaders of Mecca, the same people who had mocked him, tortured his followers, starved his family, and tried to kill him for years. He had total power over them. And he asked them this question. Can you just imagine the sheer terror they must have felt? They expected the worst. They deserved the worst.
And his answer? It just shook the city to its core. Instead of revenge, he gave them unconditional, absolute forgiveness. And that single act of incredible mercy, it conquered their hearts in a way that no army ever could. That very day, the city that had fought him for 2 decades embraced his message, all of them.
So when you look at this incredible life, what's the big takeaway? What can we learn from it all? Let's zoom out and distill it all down to the timeless principles that make up his legacy of light.
His life really offers 4 powerful lessons for all of us. First, your starting point does not define your destiny. An orphan can, in fact, change the world. Second, true strength isn't about what you have, it's about the resilience you show when you lose everything and you still don't give up. Third, the greatest power you can ever have is choosing mercy when you have every right to take revenge. And finally, a meaningful life is found when you serve others, not yourself. It was never about wealth or fame for him. It was about lifting up humanity.
And we'll end on this thought right here. It's such a powerful summary of his journey, isn't it? One man with one mission, dedicated to one God, and the world was literally never the same. It really makes you think, what is the true measure of a life's impact?